let's talk about brakes. Let's talk about the install.
First thing is this anti-vibration clip. Just take a flathead and pop it off, it shouldn't be too hard. Next you have two 7mm hex bolts. They shouldn't be too tight, but if they're super tight, then whoever did your brakes last time might have over tightened them. Next, just wiggle the caliper off. You're probably gonna have to wiggle it a little bit. Eventually you'll get it off, don't worry. Next comes the caliper bracket bolts. These are the hardest bolts to get off. First, I tried a 21mm and a 12-inch ratchet, and that didn't work. Then I tried hitting it with the hammer, nothing. So then I tried my stubby impact, still didn't work. Eventually, I had to get a torque wrench, and even pushing on it wasn't working, so I ended up standing on it and having to bounce a little bit just to get it off. Once you have it off, you're going to have a T30 torque screw that's securing the rotor to the hub. Once you get that off, your rotor's probably still going to be sticking to the hub, so you're going to have to get a hammer and hit it a couple times to break the corrosion. I was having a hard time, and I ended up having to grab a hammer and hit the backside of the rotor to pop it off. After that, it's kind of just like everything in reverse. First thing, you want to get your new rotor and spray it with cleaner to get all the grease off. If not, your new pads are just going to get gummed up with the grease, and that's not good. Make sure you position the rotor, that way you can have the set screw back in. If not, if you don't put that set screw back in, it might wiggle around, so just be careful. Be careful putting the caliper bracket back on. It goes between the knuckle and the dust shield. I was having a problem with that. Once you have those bolts on kind of tight, give it a couple hits with your hand to make sure it's not going to back out on you. Next, make sure you compress your caliper all the way, that way you can get the new pads and caliper back on properly. The back pad that sits in the caliper, it can be kind of tricky. Be patient, you'll eventually get it in. It took me a couple tries. The outside pad goes in the caliper bracket. Then you're just gonna slide your caliper back on, put those 7mm hex bolts back in. Don't forget the little dust caps that go on the back of those bolts. Some cars have them, some cars don't. And make sure you put the anti-vibration clip back in.
The only, I guess, specialty tools you might need is gonna be a 7mm Allen socket, and then you're gonna need a T30 Torx bit. So what are the future plans with the car? Well, I got an intake that I need to put on soon. I still have the downpipe I need to put on, and I want to get this thing sitting nice. You know, now that I have pretty rotors in the front, I want to be able to put some nice wheels in front of them to, you know, make it look a lot better. So I want to get this thing sitting nice on some nice wheels, get it looking good. I do have a couple wheels that I have in mind. I just have to save up for them. Eventually, I'm gonna go Solo Works, get some coils for the car. It needs it desperately. I mean, look at it. It's freaking tall as hell. From the back, it looks pretty low, but from the front, it looks absurdly tall. I don't like it. We need to get it low, sitting close to the ground. I want to get it sitting nice on some nice wheels, get it fully stage 2, downpipe intake, get an access port, get it tuned. That way, you know, it's louder, it's faster, it's more enjoyable. The rotors definitely notice a huge difference. They feel better. I have my pedal, it's weird, my pedal isn't spongy, but like the transition is a lot smoother. If you mess with a lot of cars that have different brake setups, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. On a lot of older cars, there's not a big transition between, you know, smooth braking and then it just gets hard and you're maxing out the cylinder. It's not like that. There's a nice transition now. The pads definitely grip more. I've noticed that. Once I seated the rotors in, I noticed that instantly. A big thing with these rotors, it doesn't say that you have to, you know, bed the pads, the rotors, you know, get everything used to each other, but I definitely recommend doing so. You know, 10 miles an hour, slam on the brakes, 20, slam on the brakes, 30, slam on the brakes. What you're doing is you're warming up the pads and the rotors together. That way they just fit together more comfortably. Hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.